Hey guys, and welcome to LBB91. We're giving you part 3 of our Devon Franklin and Megan Good kind of breakdown, and we're talking about the fact that God won't save your marriage. I want to clarify that because before some Christians jump into the comment section acting mad. When I say God won't save the marriage, what I mean by that is we cannot over spiritualize the need for work and the executing of godly principles within a marriage. God can't force the hand of people. He can speak, he can influence, he can maneuver people into places, but he cannot force you. If you don't want to do the work, if you don't want to put the effort in, if you don't want to have to try to make your marriage work or try and do the right things within that marriage, trust and believe. That ain't got nothing to do with God. That's got to do something with you. Okay? And that is what we need to explore. So, God won't save your marriage. Okay, but his godly principles will. And so let's talk a little bit about that as we go on. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of uploads if you're new, and for those of you who are returnees, already know what it is. You got the minerals, baby. Let's talk a little bit about this then. So we had with Megan Good and Devon Franklin, and like I said, they gave us great advice about the wait and about celibacy and trying to make sure people are, gonna be waiting before they get married. And many people loved it, and it was rightly so, because it gave people a basis and a foundation of how to conduct oneself before they get married. And I think that was very, very important. Okay, that was a godly principle, withholding sex, or at least abstaining from it, so that you can also as well be clear in mind and clear in thought and clear in your relationships and your intentions with the person that you're involved with, right? And so someone doesn't feel cheated by the end of the interaction. There are godly principles, I believe, that God gives us that is important to be able to make a marriage work. Okay, all right. Now we see some scripture where it talks about, a man shouldn't marry this type of woman, a contemptible woman, a woman that argues too much, a woman that's this, a woman that's that, because what it's giving you is some principles. If you marry these type of people, not necessarily wise, but if you marry these type of people, what's going to happen is you're going to have a tough ride trying to have a relationship with this person. For instance, we look at an example biblically of Abigail and Nabal, where David comes along and sees Abigail. I mean, the first thing you can say, forget about what Abigail has to do. She's wise, but does she have to be that wise? No, her husband is foolish. Now, she didn't really have a choice, because obviously, like I said, in those days and those times, men just chose women. But in this modern era, there's a need to make sure you don't choose one foolish, one idiot, one dumb man whose mindset is about destruction and selfishness and greed and self-love and self-loathing than it is about showing the godly love. What am I talking about? Well, these are some of the principles. For instance, when we read Ephesians 5, it says, "Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." That's ESV, okay? That's Ephesians 5 verse 1. We're going to walk in love. Whenever we see Bible, it talks about walk in the Spirit, walk in love, walk in this. What it really means is, let that be your mindset. Let that be your ethos. Let that be a part of your daily routine. Look, all of us can testify to meeting people that are not Christians that have love. We've met people who are not Christians who've shown us much more love than even Christians could. And the reason is they are executing godly principles. They don't have to be of God to do so, okay? That they are showing godly principles. To be God, he describes himself as love. And he has given us principles to be able to maneuver in this relationship war. Okay, all right? And so some of these principles that are given to us are important, right? So look at this. Ephesians 5 verse 25 says, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish." Here's the thing. It's given an example of us in our marriage with Christ. If you're not a Christian, hear me out. listen to the principle, because every marriage, whether you Muslim, whether you are Hindu, whether you are non-religious or atheist, whatever you want to call yourself, you base it on these godly principles that Christ has given us, because Christ is the complete embodiment and totality of what love actually is. Therefore, he becomes the model and the standard when we talk about love, because he's willing to sacrifice himself for his own creation. What other God does that? What other God is willing to lay down their life for their own creation? What other God is willing to protect their creation by laying down their life to save them? When you tell me that God, we'll have a conversation. Now, back onto this, verse 25, where it says, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church. That's a principle here, right? Man them, love your wives as Christ loved the church. What did Christ do? He was patient, he was kind, he was loving, he was enduring, he was, he wasn't boasting, okay, all right? He was making sure, all right, that he was showing all these attributes. In fact, we can even look at it. Let me just go to Galatians 4 and talk about these principles again once more that need to be executed. If the principles are not executed, you're going to have trouble. And it starts first and foremost, like I always say, with the choice of partner, because a bad partner will leave you carrying all the load. Now, are there going to be times in a relationship where you're going to carry more than another person? Absolutely. But if you're consistently having to carry more than another person, guess what's going to happen? You're going to struggle. Eventually, you are going to pass out. Look, Galatians 5 verse 22 says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love. Love. That's one of the fruits. It's joy. That's inner joy. That doesn't come from external circumstances. Peace internally. Patience internally, kindness internally, a goodness internally, faithfulness internally, gentleness internally, self-control internally. Against such things there is no law. There are people who don't follow Jesus, who don't follow any particular faith, who execute these principles in their marriage. They will show love, and we'll describe what love is in 1 Corinthians 13 in a bit. They will show joy, they will show peace, they will show patience, kindness, and goodness, and faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control in their relationship. Are you doing so? And do you have the environment to do that? Because if you've got the wrong type of partner, I'm telling you now, you're going to offer yourself as a sacrifice. Trying to do these things. Yeah, love conquers all. Yeah. But that love we're talking about is a God love. That ain't the love that you and I have. We have conditional love to a degree of most certainly, because of the way that we're reared and the fact that we've fallen short of his glory. In this marriage, when we talk about God can't save it, I mean it's his principles do that for him. You can't over spiritualize everything and pray it away. It needs to have principles, precepts that we follow. Okay, precepts in the way we follow, right? Like, for instance, going back to Ephesians 5 verse 28 now this time says, in the same way husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. I said this before, God is interested in service. This is why Jesus in Philippians 2 said, I'm going to come down and I'm going to make myself a servant and serve the people, even though I am equal to God and I am God. And I'm going to still come down there and I'm going to serve. Here's an example. Peter, when Jesus was washing Peter's feet, Peter said, no, let me wash your feet. And Jesus said, listen, hey, I'm here to serve. Let me wash your feet. It's about service. Do you see what I'm saying? So in the marriage, you need to find somebody who wants to serve as much as you want to serve. There are so many selfish people out there who don't want to serve, and they meet people who want to serve and they rob them in the marriage. You need to find somebody who wants to serve equally as much as you, maybe a little bit more. That has a mindset that is about, I want to give because I want to put myself second to put you first. And if the other person puts themselves second and puts you first, guess what we have? We have a symbiotic relationship, which is of mutualism, that allows for us to be able to both mutually benefit from this relationship. In simple English, when both people put the other person first, what enables for both parties to do is to not lose out when they are compromising, because they realize the other person does it from a place of love, and therefore when they compromise, they're not being cheated. This is why I said about godly principles, because when Jesus chose his 12, it was intentional. When you choose your partner, it should be intentional. Never fading, all things are working for my good. Oh, Lord of mercy, that key was off. This is why I've not been singing whilst I'm on holiday. The heat, yeah. Anyway, listen, let's get back to the thing. Let's leave that alone. Let's set about that a better. I need some water for my throat. Okay, see, so, reading on again, Ephesians 5 verse 28 to 29 says, in the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself. And it says on, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. The husband, men, if you're listening to me, in fact, I'm going to do a separate video for this, you better be nourishing your wives. So if you're complaining that she's a bit of an ass, maybe you've chosen the wrong type of wife. Maybe you've chosen the wrong type of wife. Or maybe you just haven't watered that area very well, and you need to start implementing some godly principles. See, prayer starts the conversation with God to get you into a place where you are receptive to what God is going to say. And then reading the Bible allows us oftentimes to be able to read hold a mirror to ourselves, to reflect on what some of the behaviors we have. Some of us need to really start to nourish our wives. A lot of us men have neglected our wives in terms of feeding them. We no longer support them. We no longer give them the food that they need in order to flourish and be able to support us. We've grown tired and weak. We don't give them the food they need. And now we're complaining because they're not able to respond to where we want to respond. Well, we're going to have to take some charge of that. Godly principles. Godly principles. Some of you are cheating on your wives and then asking yourself the question, why won't she trust me? Get the frick out of here. Get the freak out of here. Get the freak out of here. Okay? 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not boast or envy. It's not arrogant. It's not rude. It does not insist on its own way. This is the most important part here. It does not insist on its own way. Many people are trying to insist on their own way within the marriage. And what you don't realize about, what we all realize about even relationships before we even get to marriage, is that there's a give and take. There's a balls and a buzz. There's, la tete, but in a good way, in the sense of there's a, you do me, I do you. Touch me, I touch you. Okay, so, you know what I mean? So you're not insisting on your own way. When you lead from a place of, when your leadership is from a place of love, what happens is people want to follow you. Those who respect you, man, them, stop crying about these. Listen, stop going for gal that are just badders, but don't respect you. You are the fool. If you're going for girls that are badders, sweet things, sugar bananas, but they don't respect you, you're the fool. Stop doing it. Go for a woman that respects you and respects your leadership. And make sure your leadership comes from a place of love. So that when you're leading it, there's an instant response, which is that it is not having to force its own way. Oftentimes when we forced it is because we've obviously been robbed in the past of our own power. But number two, we're also responding to the stimulus. Maybe you've chosen the wrong kind of partner, or you've been feeding the partner wrongly, and what you're getting is a combative partner who never wants to listen and do what you and to follow lead and follow suit, right? That's because now, and that then becomes a breeding ground for you to say, well, I'm gonna make sure it's my own way, because a person is responding to you in a way they never give you rope to lead. I mean, I was in a relationship before where the girl just said, like, she would come to me and be like, hey, babe, like, what do you think about this? Okay, I'm going to do this. What do you think about this? Not that she wasn't smart, not that she wasn't sure, not that she even wasn't able to do it on her own. She could. But what she found herself doing was just allow me to lead. Now, I honestly believe that was one of the most powerful relationships I've ever been in, good and bad. But I learned a key lesson. Her allowance for me to lead, her wanting for me to lead, and then her encouragement by asking me questions and drawing me into conversations, which she could have done it by herself, by saying, hey, babe, what do you think about this? And then for me to be able to say, hey, look, do you know what? I think, you know what? You need to go left. I don't think that's the right thing to do. And she'd be like, okay, I hear that. Thank you. Okay, I won't go left. Right? She trusts my leadership that much. The problem isn't that we've just got modern day women in 2021 not respecting men. The problem is also men are choosing these type of women who don't know how to be subservient. And when I say subservient, I shouldn't say that word. Submit. They don't respect your leadership and they don't respect you. Man them, why are we going after them type of gal? There are women out there that want to respect your leadership, that want to respect you as an individual. You need to choose them. And you can tell straight away, early on in a relationship, whether people are going to allow you to lead or not. You sense the power struggles. I don't want to struggle in that power department when I get married. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Because the responsibility of the relationship really does lie a lot of times on the men's shoulders. And the direction and the guidance of the relationship relies on the man's shoulders. You are a leader, therefore you are going to be held accountable. When Devon and Megan Good are breaking down, people might look at Megan Good the world, but really and truly they're looking at the fact that what the state of the relationship is. And the folks should be lying more with Devon, because he's a man, he's a leader. So unless Megan Good cheated, he's going to be in a firing line. But often what happens is we blame the woman. And that's a problem too. But again, remember I said this about godly principles. Are you executing the fact that love is not irritable or resentful? It doesn't rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love requires truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Look, love is something that's so powerful, and fostered and festered and cultivated rightly, you will win. I'm asking you to choose correctly the first partner. Man them. Stop going for women that don't respect you, because your love and how you interpret love is through respect, not because she got a bad body. Does she respect you as a man? Does she respect your leadership? Key questions you ask yourself. Ladies, does he lead in love? Does he show you love? Is he the one that's able to lead you correctly? Do you find yourself wanting to submit naturally? Those are key questions. People got to ask themselves the questions, man. Like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded.